Hockey, yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show, the Wednesday edition. Yes, it's the Wild's bye week, thank God. It's the All-Star break, thank God, so we don't have to watch them lose games. It's Judd, it's Declan, it's Jesse, and we have a very special bye week / All-Star break show planned for today. But before we do that, I want to shout out the presenting sponsor of this show, at least for today, our friends at Livia Weight Control Centers. Jesse and I both know them very well. They can help you lose weight, and right now, do they have a deal? Your first 3 months for free. That's right, your first 3 months for free. 855-GO-LIVEA, Livia.com. Jess, you're down what now? 25, 30 pounds? Is
30, over 30 pounds. Let's go.
That's congratulations. It is a program, again, that works. And how would you, by spring, like to be down substantial weight? And again, that part was free. You're just starting your weight loss journey. Livia.com. Okay, so I sent you guys a note yesterday because there's no sense in like belaboring the fact that this team, I mean, my God, they lost to the Ducks. The loss to the Predators last Thursday was bad. The loss to the Ducks on Saturday was absolutely embarrassing. But with, if I'm not mistaken, 33 games left now. 33 games left in a season that does look like a lost cause. We have some categories to go through. Some of them are positive, some of them aren't. Jesse, we'll start with you on this one. And this is a positive, but starting with you, who is your, it's past the halfway point, but who is your MVP at the All-Star break for the Minnesota Wild?
I'm personally glad you're starting with me because there is no other answer. There is only one answer for this team. Throwing the gauntlet down, it's Brock Faber, without question. He is 4 goals, 25 assists. Oh, you think it's all right? I'm excited. I'm excited. It's Brock. You can't, kidding me? He is 5th on the team in points. He is one of only 7 players who have played 49 games this year, too, you guys. Just to point that out. It's just been a couple of guys that have actually gotten to this point in the season. 3rd on the team in assists, +4 with an average of 24.5 minutes each game, which obviously we've seen him do more. He stepped into areas that he's, never normally do. He's got a 5.2 shooting percentage, which is a new aspect of his game that I think has really grown, and I'm loving seeing that from him. That's something that Dean Evson and John Hines both collectively entering this year really wanted to see him be an offensive blue liner. And only Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin have a better plus-minus. The rest of the defensemen, they're all minus, baby. You got John Merrill at -3, Goligoski -5, Middleton at -8. So Brock Faber, come on, challenge me. It is Brock Faber. He is your team MVP. Without him, you think this lost cause of a season.
Just coming on the show.
Let's go.
Bar down beauty, Jesse Pierce, just throwing flames all over the show.
I had a second place, but I was like, I hope I don't have to use him because I think it's
we started
Brock.
with you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Brock, which is very fair. He's been phenomenal. Declan looks like he disagrees. Declan?
Yeah, I do disagree because it's Joel Eriksson Ek. I think Ek is the MVP of this team. He's been the steady, quiet presence. I get the Faber point because, he's still raw and inexperienced and he just looks like he's been playing here for 15 years. But Ek has had the most consistent, steady season of any of the forwards on this team. On pace for a huge career year, 35 goals. He just continues to blossom. He went from a guy who was a defensive first forward like we talked about last week, and now here he is quietly knocking on the door of being a 40-goal scorer. Like that kind of felt like that's come out of overnight. And, at first it looked like when you go back to the draft class from that where everyone was pissed that they took Ek over Brock Besser. And then immediately it looked like Besser was going to be haunting the Wild. And then it looked like, no, Ek is actually the better pick. Now Besser is propped back up and he's having a huge year where now I think you can just say, hey, both guys are really damn good. But for me, it's Joel Eriksson Ek. I think he has easily been the Wild's best player this year.
I stand corrected. Those are the 2 players. Nobody else. There's nobody else, Judd. So
good luck, Judd. If you have a third, my God. Or break the
I
tie.
was just going to say, you guys stole both of them, and I don't blame you one bit. Yeah, there's nobody. There's nobody who even is remotely close. Unfortunately, Kirill Kaprizov leads the team in points, but he's not it. And I think that he would admit that this has been, for him, a disappointing season. Okay, this one's tough. I'll break the tie. How about that? I'll break the tie. Because Brock and Joel both deserve consideration. A lot of it. But I am going to go with Jesse, Brock Faber. Eriksson Ek has been great. He's been fantastic. But I guess here's my question. okay, without Eriksson Ek, this team definitely is hurt. Like he brings it every night. He doesn't take games off. He scored 21 goals. I love his style of play. The fact that in the Athletics just released poll of anonymous players, he didn't get, I don't think, a vote for "I like to punch this guy in the face" is absolute nonsense, because I've never seen a guy, or I have not seen many guys play for Minnesota sports, for the North Stars or the Wild, who guys want to punch so bad. But my God, Brock Faber. I mean, the ice time, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You could make a pretty compelling case, and this sounds nuts. You can make a pretty compelling case that if you were to say, okay, Jared Spurgeon's out for the season, we have to name a captain. They don't, but let's just say that they did. You can make a pretty compelling case. It's Brock. Mm-hmm. Like he's always talking. He takes responsibility. Unlike Middleton on Saturday night, who went and hid from you guys. There's just a lot to like there. And I looked at this yesterday. The LA Kings right now, you guys are reeling. Kevin Fiala he's gone back into the Fiala up and down. And this trade, I will say it again, with a draft pick, Olgren as well, looks like an absolute steal. I'm sorry. Fiala, God bless him, he could score goals. I loved to watch him. Declan, loved the guy. But that trade is a phenomenal trade. Bill Guerin's done a lot wrong, as far as contract extensions. That trade is something that Bill Guerin and Judd Brackett deserve a ton of credit for, Jess.
Didn't Kevin Fiala wind up on the most punchable face list, I believe I saw as well? He was garnering some votes, 2% or
Hartman
something
did.
Like that. Yeah, yeah.
Hartman did. But, Eck literally gets punched in the face all the time.
Every game.
I know. So how did he not end up? But that trade is going... And if Brock Faber was not here, I don't know what this team would do. They'd be one of the worst defensive teams we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially because they've been so hampered on the defensive end, not just with injury, but just with bad defensive players, frankly. I mean, Brock is the game changer. I agree with Dex. I think Joel Eriksson has been another one of those guys that deserves that conversation. I mean, just in shots alone, he's shot 184 this year, which you can't score unless you shoot, because nobody else seems to like to shoot on this team, right? I mean, those were some other stats that I was just like, he is good. 4 game-winning goals, +10. But Brock Faber is the game changer. That's the MVP. That's what, you remove him from the puzzle and you're missing a piece that could complete the whole thing.
All right. Second category. We'll start with Declan this time. Biggest disappointment. Long list of candidates. Your biggest disappointment 49 games into the Wild season.
Yeah, there are a list of candidates. I kind of want to just take the easy one out, even though I knew regression was going to hit him, but Philip Gustafsson. Because he had obviously a career year last year and propped up as one of the better goaltenders in the NHL, winning 37 games. His GAA was really good. His goal saved above expected, another analytical stat, was also really good. So both those stats mirrored each other. He wasn't, being put in bad luck situations. But this year, I mean, his numbers have just ballooned to where he was in Ottawa. And look, I expected some regression. I don't think I expected regression this much. And goaltending can carry you a long ways in the NHL. But I expected not this steep, I believe, of a drop-off from Gus's game. And, the Wild have just kind of, with Marc-Andre Fleury being the backup, they've had just, below-average goaltending this year. And there's a lot of warts, and there's a lot of excuses you could make for the Wild, lackadaisical start to the first half of the season. But goaltending can make up for that pretty easily if you get consistent goaltending. So for me, I'm going to have to go with the Gus bus.
Jess?
Bill Guerin. He's been my biggest disappointment. Specifically, Bill Guerin's pen.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
I think the moves that he has made, the locking in Foligno, Zuccarello, and Hartman as early as he did, really still kind of irks me. I think it's just the matter of time seeing, I think Hartman and Foligno and Zuccarello have all done well, but I just wish he would have waited. In general, it's just been a down year for some of the players that he has added and the team as a whole. And no player has been as disappointing to me as the general manager has this year. So unfortunately, I'm going to go with Billy G. I know we're always, in Billy G we trust. I just lost a little bit of faith in our boy.
Oh, you're not the only one. I've seen a lot of things on Twitter. A lot of people have are doubting him. Now, I do think that they built a good team, but you're right. For this year, and there was no hurry. That's the thing about, the Zuccarello, Hartman, Foligno extensions. There was no hurry there. And furthermore, there was no real incentive, in my opinion, to give them protection from trades. Mm-hmm. Like I would have said, okay, I'll sign you now, but in return, if things go sideways, which they clearly have, then I can trade you. Dex, back to Gustafson for a second. How much do you actually fault the regression on him, and how much do you fault the regression on a blue line core that's without Spurgeon? And, let's just face facts, has some real slappies back there.
Yeah, that's part of the pie. The Wild have always had their core of defensemen in Spurgeon and Brodin and even Dumba. But, you have Middleton now. You have Brock Faber. I know Spurge is lost for the season, just only played, a half dozen games or so, it's felt like. But at the end of the day, you need your goaltender to bail you out, too. You need your goalie to save you. And, yes, for sure, having Goose in the back end there, not great. Having guys that probably shouldn't be playing significant minutes, not great. But I put more of the blame still on Gustafson because he can make up for it. And a goalie can, when he's hot, which we've seen before, you can overcome some of those deficiencies. So, right. Yeah, it's part of the pie in the regression for sure. But I don't put the largest chunk of that stock in Gustafson's regression this season.
Jesse, do you expect Declan Chisholm, who they took off, great name, who they claimed off waivers a couple days ago from the Jets, do you expect him to step in for Merrill or Goose?
Something's kind of got to give because not only you have him, but you have Will Butcher, who you acquired as well. So it's kind of like you're plumping up. And granted, there is obviously concern down in Iowa because you're taking all of these Iowa players and you have them pulled up. And I think Dakota Mermis has been fine here in Minnesota. He's obviously solidified a spot. But yeah, I would imagine you'd give him a look. I mean, John Merrill's just kind of been chilling in the press box unless he's absolutely needed to be called upon. But either Declan or Will Butcher, I think, are two viable options that I'd really like to see here. Will Butcher, saw him play in college, liked what I saw there. Declan, I'm less familiar with. But I think either way, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I actually, so just side street, I actually worked one of my first jobs out of college. I worked with another Declan who was older than me too. So I wasn't referred to as Declan in the office. They called me D2. So when I worked at Go Radio, Go MN and Bring Me the News, I was D2. I was not Declan. So it was always very weird to me when I'd be in an office or in a meeting and they'd be saying Declan and they're not referring to, not to say obviously I have a unique name, but it got very, so even when Jesse was just talking about Declan Chisholm, I keep thinking I keep perking up.
She's saying your name.
What? Yeah. And it's very hard.
And she purposely said his first name.
I did.
To screw with you. I could tell what she was doing.
I did. I was just having a little fun with it because I wanted to see how much you were paying attention.
If you start calling him Dex, we're going to have some issues here.
I thought about it.
Now I'm not going to be able to, are you talking about disappointing on the ice? Or are you talking about your co-host? Which one is it here? I'd have to figure it out.
Well, you guys left the perfect one for me, so I'd like to thank you very much because Marcus Johansson to me, just absolutely cashing paychecks. And I'm mad at myself mostly because, his first stint here, we said, well, he was hurt and he didn't play that well because when they reacquired him from Washington for the playoffs last year, that guy, I thought came in here and worked his ass off. Contract. This is the real, I remember reading this. This is the real Marcus Johansson. And because he's talented. He's got skill. He now has, let's see here, 8 goals, 24 points, 49 games. And the don't give a damn factor on a nightly basis is way too high. Look, of all of those guys that Billy went out and got, right, for the playoff run. And I know that their salaries aren't all the same right now. Nyquist, who would have been too expensive, first line in Nashville, right? Just looking absolutely great. Sundstrom went back to the Blues. He's fine. But Marcus Johansson, you kept him because he sort of showed you something and he was willing to sign for, and I checked. I think he's got a no trade completely. So you can't even move him to a contender now to try and light a fire below his ass. am disappointed because I should have just said, you know what? This is a one-off. He's trying hard because it's a contract. Let him go sign a 2-year deal back in Washington or wherever. Get him out of here. I can't with him. I can't. He's got too much talent to be this lazy consistently.
And that's where Jesse's point of biggest disappointment in Bill Guerin. I mean, that's
right.
on the laundry list of it. Just I think that's what I am also really just pissed off about, and that's what we questioned, last summer was what's the plan here? You're going to make a lot of future bets and tie up even more money for a team that has to do one more full season of salary cap hell in the guys you probably shouldn't be extending in the first place. So yeah, he's probably of those free agents. I know I rag on Hartman a lot, but I think Mojo's probably up there in terms of the guys they brought back that they probably just should have said goodbye to.
Well, part of me. Go ahead, Judd.
Oh, I was just going to say,
God.
sorry about that.
Okay.
I was going to say Hartman, Foligno, and Zuccarello, I don't think is a work problem.
No.
Like, I don't watch them and get mad. I wonder about why they got the contracts, but I don't. JoJo, Jesse, I literally would sit there and I'm like, oh my, and because once in a while he'll turn it on and it's like, oh, there it is. So I digress. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. I think Bill Guerin saw that too. I think he anticipated that Johansson would just carry on from what he had. I mean, he still had that chemistry with Matt Boldy. Matt Boldy's back. Okay, good. Maybe this is what Johansson needs. And I feel like, you're right. He reminds me a little bit of Jordan Greenway, right? Jordan Greenway had this talent. And he just had zero work ethic. He was so incredibly lazy. And Johansson, it's a little different because it's not necessarily lazy. It's just that he, for whatever reason, one reason or another, he's kind of like, meh, yeah, maybe today I'll shoot. Maybe today I'll try to stick handle. Maybe, like, it's just kind of, it doesn't feel lazy to me. It just feels like, do you want to be here, bud? Like, do you want, do we want to be doing this? Like, you don't have to be doing this. Like, okay, whereas Greenway just never wanted to work, never wanted to use his size. And for whatever reason, Johansson doesn't want to use the skill set that he's been given in life.
If you have a child, and I don't know this for a fact, who doesn't apply him or herself, and like you can tell that like they're smarter, they can read, and they don't do it. That's this. Greenway had to play a certain way, and it was hard, and he just didn't want to. Mm-hmm. Johansson looks like the guy who goes to like a Swedish league or something and dominates it, and then he's like, but it's harder here, so screw it. Just very frustrating to watch. Okay, Jesse, back to you. What player do you expect to rebound the most in the final 33 games? If there was one player who you think could have a solid rebound turnaround, who do you think it is?
It's got to be Kirill Kaprizov. And not to say that he was disappointing, but the season started so incredibly slow for him. And yet he still has 45 points leading the team. He still has 12 goals, which is second on the team. Still has 26 assists. In fact, 11 points in his past 7 games. Kaprizov is coming back. Again, he's a guy that doesn't like to lose, and the frustration's been there all year. We love that 100-watt smile, and it hasn't been around as much. And Kaprizov plays his best hockey when he's having fun. And suffice to say, winning is more fun than losing, but at the same time, he needs to be feeling himself out there, and I think he's finally got his mojo back. So while I wouldn't have called him a disappointment, and I know none of us did, definitely a frustrating start for him. So I think the last 33 games, he really reasserts himself as the superstar we all know he is.
I'll take Boldy. Just the inconsistencies here. I think he's just been way too streaky of a player, and I wouldn't fight someone too hard. I know he has 16 goals this season, but I wouldn't fight someone too hard on biggest disappointment. Just because him and Kirill were obviously supposed to kind of carry this offense, and Boldy got off to the really slow start, and he's just in general a streaky scorer. I would love to see him though, kind of take this and get back on track and not be so streaky and kind of start carrying some of this offense. They need these two guys. And honestly, I think it's probably cop-outs for both Jess and I to say Kirill and Boldy, but they have to. Like they have to rebound here if they have any shot at trying to dig themselves out, which I still don't think they really can. But those two guys can't have off nights consistently. We've seen already way too many. We've seen more off nights in this 42 game sample from both of them than the other last two seasons combined. So you need more from both of those guys by the end of the season.
And Kirill, I do think, was hurt. Like he's gotten hurt again. The Stanley hit in March of last year. He clearly did not come back. For him, close to 100%. And so some of what makes him special, I think, was taken away. Boldy, I agree completely. It's not the stats. The stats are fine. The stats lie. With Boldy, it's like, dude, you have to bring it every single night. Mm-hmm. You're not good enough not to. And your game, he falls into the Coyle and Greenway trap. Your game requires you to work your ass off every single night. And we've seen it. Ek does that. Ek gets his ass kicked from here to Owatonna every game. But he's willing to. But I mean, that's what, you can't say, well, that's not in Boldy's nature. Well, then screw it. Right? Mm-hmm. So like we need to see, I mean, when Matthew Boldy's going well, in the last 2 games, to his credit, Nashville and the Ducks game, I noticed him constantly. Like it's not the stats. It's does he show up? And I thought those last two games, despite the fact that the team disappointed Dex, to what you're saying, I saw him all over the ice. And that's what he needs to do every single game. And I don't care if it's hard. That's your job, dude. You're a big player. You've got to assert yourself both on the score sheet, but more importantly, on the ice consistently. And what you're saying to me makes perfect sense.
Yeah, as our friend Bill Guerin and Judd would love to say if they were on the mic together, you got to pay the price, right? You got to pay the price. You got to make the sacrifice. You got to pay the price. You can't just be a one-trick pony. You got to be all facets, and you got to be able to take some hits here and there. So, no, totally agree. They have to be more consistent.
Okay, here's my disappointment, and it's going to go. So it's my second, or I'm sorry. Here's my can he rebound, and it's my second disappointment, and I think it's worth talking about because of the contract and because of the role. And this might be a player that simply doesn't fit now, but I think that the 33 games left, we need to find out. Freddy Gaudreau. Dean Evason's son, no question about it. I'm sorry. Changed his last name, but I mean, they signed him last April, as we all recall, to a 5-year, $10.5 million contract, right? He has a 15-team no trade. John Hines doesn't seem to have a lot of use for him. And when I see Freddy play now, he sort of just is there. Like he's another guy who, dude, you're not good enough. Like Boldy's a major talent who has to work hard. Gaudreau is a mild talent who has to work doubly hard. Every shift, 89 should show up. Like you should be like, oh my God, look at that. And I'm not saying goals. I'm just saying show up. Like all over the ice doing something. I feel like we don't see that now. And God forbid it's because he got a contract and is comfortable. But this is a guy to me that's teetering on, do you want him for 2020, 24, 25 or not? So in my opinion, it's not in the score sheet, but he needs to rebound in these last 33 games to show me that he can fit a role here. And it's not going to be what Dean did. Dean was playing this guy top 6 at times. Mm-hmm. And he shouldn't have been, but he was. But, if Gaudreau is on the 4th line, dude, when you get your shifts, you have to make Jesse and I stand up in the press box and go, okay, that's why you're here.
I don't want to stand up.
And we're sitting down a lot. You're always standing up with your camera phone, Jesse. Don't lie. You're always nobody works a camera phone.
Who has dropped their phone in the press box before? Not Judd or me.
Well, I'm just saying. That was because I tried to prop it. It's a whole thing, guys.
Oh, okay.
But she is props. Well, first of all, her post game shoots are done like all over the place.
That's true.
Press box. Yeah. Sometimes they drop into the suites. Sometimes she's down by the ice and gets Kirsten to do it for her. It's unbelievable. But anyway, Freddy Gaudreau, show me, dude, you got to show me something.
I have more dedication than Freddy Gaudreau does to my career.
Oh, you 100% do.
Right? No, I mean, Freddy can't even score in a shootout. I don't know when the last time he scored a shootout goal was. I believe he missed his past couple opportunities. But I think that's just it, Judd. I think it's because Dean's not here giving him the opportunity, so he's even buried more, right? Like, we really don't see him because he's just not getting the minutes that he had. I would have no qualms with parting ways with Freddy Gaudreau as soon as you could, just because, you know what? Meh.
But couldn't he be a 4th-line guy that works his butt off? Like, I feel you're not seeing that right now. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I just don't feel like we see him. And I know that Dean loved him, so he played him, at legit times. But I just think that these last 33 games are a referendum on some guys, and he is one of them. And unlike Johansson, I don't think he's not trying. I just think he doesn't get what the role is.
I have no idea that guy got like a 6-year contract last year or 5 year.
5-year contract, 2.1 AAV, and he's really a fourth liner.
And look, it's fine. He's got a role, but you don't
Right.
sign fourth liners to 6-year contract extensions, especially ones that are Frederick Gaudreau, who's borderline replacement level player.
Yeah, his WAR is what?
His WAR is wins above replacement.
Yeah, would be what?
Yeah, it would be a 1. It'd be a 1 or a 2. He'd be a replacement level player.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Will Bill Guerin be active before and at the March 8th trade deadline? Will he be active? And if so, predict how. I think we start with Dex this time. Is that correct?
Yep, sure.
See Dex, not Declan.
I think he'll be active, but I think he'll be trying to sell, or he'll help, maybe like they did last year. Maybe he can help facilitate some trades too. Them as in being the Wild, if they're interested in buying, I have no idea what you're trying to accomplish here. And this will probably dovetail into Judd's final question, but this is going to have to be a long-term plan. There are no really short-term fixes that are probably going to jolt this team up from making a run this year or even going into next season. This is going to be a little bit of a build-up for the first time in a bit. And if you're interested in buying and sacrificing future assets, I got a lot more questions about Bill Guerin than I probably did even a few months ago.
Yeah, I think you have to subtract. There's no addition here. There's subtraction or nothing, or you just stay null. I mean, maybe you get a Ryan O'Reilly in a middle ground trade, and you could say that he played for the Minnesota Wild for a brief stint.
Number.
I know.
90 put up in the rafters.
There are only 9 players with no protection. 4 have modified protection. You had mentioned Gaudreau, Zach Bogosian, Matt Zuccarello, and Pat Maroon. Pat Maroon's name has been floating around quite a bit. Fine, go. Like, I mean, there's nobody on this team, frankly, that I need except Brock Faber, Matt Boldy, Kirill Kaprizov, Jonas Brodin, Jules Eriksson. I could maybe be convinced on Zuccarello or Foligno. The rest of them, you can have at what you will. Now, the 9 players with no protection include Kaprizov, who's obviously a UFA in 2026-27. Boldy's locked in. Ek is locked in. Duhaime is a UFA this summer. Rossi's on his ELC. Dewar is a restricted free agent this summer. Lettieri, UFA in 25-26. Middleton in 25-26. John Merrill is a UFA with no protection.
You gotta wave. Just wave him. Just put him on waivers.
What are we doing here?
Billy, put him on waivers.
And Gus is a UFA in 26-27 as well. So, I mean, there's potential there. My big thing is, though, if you're going to trade anybody, you need something really good back. And I'm sure that's the same approach that Bill Guerin's going to take, right? Like, I want something, I don't need a player back, but I want to build for the future.
I heard you talking about this.
Yeah, it was a good quote I said yesterday, right? Yeah, not bad.
It was so good you clipped it yourself and
clipped it myself
and put it on X/Twitter. I saw it, and then I saw that you tweeted how great the quote was.
Yeah, it was so good.
Like I watched it anyway, Jesse. You didn't need to tell me. It was great.
What a quote! No, but it was exactly. I think paraphrasing now what I said, but it was like, I'm not building for this team to get better now. I'm building for it to be better in the future. So I'm not
100%.
selling team. Like, there's just no point. Even if you think that you could be a bubble team with what you got. You thought that you were there. I mean, they're doing a good enough job pushing themselves out of a playoff spot that you don't need help to.
No, you're not trying to tank.
No. Just be
I agree
neutral.
completely. But you've had one good stretch, 11-3 with John Hines. That's the only good stretch you've had all season long.
Yeah,
that's a 14-game sample size in an 82-game season. And by the way, you just lost to the Ducks in the third period at home on Hockey Day, ruining it for every man, woman, and child in the state who has loved this long-held tradition. So here's where I don't think we disagree, Jesse. But here's what I'm thinking: Maroon and Bogosian for draft picks. Mid-round draft picks is fine.
Mm-hmm.
They're not coming back. I'm trading both of them for sure. But like when you go back to the what was the trade that they made with the Ducks for the 3rd round pick? The guy's now with the tough guy who was with the Ducks and now he's with the Flyers. Delorier?
Nick Seeler. Delorier.
Yep.
I think that was a third. I think that was a future third.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take that back for Patty. I'd take a third or fourth. I'd take a fourth back for Bogosian, and then I would seriously look to shop Gus. The more I look at that now, just to be clear though, I'll clear this up because I saw this out there and I do agree with it. I'm not shopping Gus to play Wallstead a ton. What I'm doing is if Fleury's still here, and there's a fighting chance that he will just stay here. And if he wants to go, then that can change things. But anyway, if Fleury stays, I'm playing Fleury. I'm calling up that McIntyre.
No.
And I'm letting in goals.
No.
Why won't you let in goals? Why?
I can't. That makes my story long. I don't want to do that. That's not fun.
We're not worried about your story. We're worried about the future. We're going to get to it in a second. It's the last question. But why? But I did see this. I think it was in the Russo Joe Smith piece, and I agree completely. Just to be very, very clear, I am not pro ride Wallstedt now. That would not be fair or a good idea. But I think Gustafsson can get you a lot back because teams are desperate, and Declan nailed it. The regression is probably real.
You would swap goalies with whoever you're trading with too, so you can get a second round pick and you would get back their other goalie.
Okay,
that's probably a more likely area where you're not calling up Zane McIntyre would be. I know what you're trying to do, Judd. I know exactly what you're trying to do.
Let the goals.
That would be waving a white flag, and they will not do that. I know it's what you want to do, but they will not call up Zane McIntyre for those purposes.
Let's get John Gibson.
There you go. Get Gibby.
John Gibson actually should be traded to a contender.
God, I love him.
But there's teams that need goaltending. Toronto, New Jersey, Philadelphia now. I don't think Carter Hart's coming back this season.
Or ever.
So, no, right. But I'm saying like they are overachieving. And so if he's not going to come back, and he's not, you probably should replace him because he might be gone for a very long time. Anyway. Okay, last
10 to 15.
This whole thing is so ugly. It's so, makes my skin crawl.
Wait, question though on the moving.
Yeah.
Does it worry? So per cap friendly, Guerin has 5.23 million of space by deadline. Does that scare you guys at all? Because I feel like Bill is kind of like me when I have some money in my pocket and I'm like, ooh, look at those shoes. Like I kind of worry. And also in another effort, because as we know, Bill Guerin doesn't like to wave that white flag. I could see this as another effort. Does it concern you that he now has money to play with, that he could be like, oh, well, I could make this team better. Oh, we could make. That's not what he sounds like at all, but if he were.
After what you saw with the Ducks loss and the Predators loss, if you really think that you can turn this team around with a move, I think you're crazy. But yes, it will concern me until he at least telegraphs to us that his message is, screw this, it's not going to work this season. Dex?
Yeah. I think he'll mostly use that space to be a pawn, just like maybe they did with ROR last year.
Broker?
He'll broker some deals. I can see that.
I like it.
How optimistic, Jesse? And this is where at least Sportsdad is going to surprise, I think, because he's seen as a malcontent, a recalcitrant, and a very negative human being. But how optimistic are you about the future of this team?
I don't know, because, on this week's episode of Bard on Beauties, shameless plug, Kirsten brought up a good point, and it's something that I think I haven't really considered. We've seen a lot of Iowa players up here, right? I haven't been nearly as impressed as we've been touted, right? Everyone keeps talking about how, the Iowa squad, they've got all these players. That's light concern for me. That is light concern because we're building toward the future. However, there is excitement. So I'll eventually get to my answer here. But the excitement is around Danelia Yurov and Marat too, right? The guys that haven't come over here, Liam Ogren. I want to see them sooner rather than later. So I'm trying to remain optimistic for the future of the Minnesota Wild. As I'd mentioned, there's only 5 players on this team that I think are going to be part of that future and will be an integral part of that future. But that future I do see, if Bill Guerin plays it right, if he gets the right guys here at the right time, if he makes extensions wisely and much smarter than he has done recently, I think it looks good. I could see a team built for a run, built past a first round anyway. Again, that future isn't imminent. It is maybe 3 years down the road before we really see the fruits of that labor. But it could be okay.
Yep.
It's just going to be a slow burn. I think that's what's difficult for Craig to understand, and maybe even for Bill still to understand. I think Bill's maybe getting there. I think he's more trending towards this is going to be a little bit of a slow burn, and slow burn meaning probably 18 months, probably a full another season of being a little bit irrelevant outside the playoff bubble to build some things up here. To Jess's point, they need a little bit more of a shot in the arm in the farm system. They need to figure out if Wallsted's going to be ready and be their number one goalie. They got big decisions to make with Kirill Kaprizov, and if they have to say goodbye, how do they replace that? So I think they had a window, obviously, to these last 3 playoff runs where they should have made a run, and they didn't. And now they're behind the 8 ball, and you can't just wave a magic wand with the salary cap problems they still have for another year. So it's a slow burn. I trust that plan. If that's indeed going down that path, I do have trust in that plan, but it's going to have to take, I think, some external opinions to really understand that, and from Craig's standpoint, because they really, just like the Vikings, the Wild are rarely ever bad, really bad. They have a tough time doing that.
I think Craig and Bill, and this extends to us as well, and fans, I think we all fooled ourselves, because in the post-buyout world, this team was competitive. Far more competitive than I expected, but then I grew accustomed to 100 points again. Then they get bounced in the playoffs. It's like disappointment. Can you come back with that again? When I think we should have all said, okay, that's nice. But the reality is this. I think the future is incredibly bright in 2 years. And I think the quicker that you now accept your fate, like this team is disintegrating in front of you, which I'm fine with, but allow it to happen, get draft picks. And this is where the one blessing in disguise completely was Fiala forcing his way out, right? Because like Jess, one of the prospects who's developed is Faber. Mm-hmm. And now you've got a number 1 defenseman who I would compare to a top guy. Adam Fox type of guy. He's not Makar, because Makar is so special.
Maybe but, you're MVP of the team. I don't know. That's what it feels like.
Exactly. But I mean, you've got that guy now. You got that guy sort of by accident because the guy forced his way out. But the point is, those buyouts were always going to cost you, and they did. And it feels like with the lack of quality of this team that it's really like we're seeing it now. But Jesse, back to your point, yes, Iowa, you've called guys up, and it's sort of a mishmash now. But the draft picks coming down the line, the 1st and 2nd round picks, and imagine adding to that group now. And you're going to have guys step in. You're going to have some Russians step in with Kirill. I guarantee he's going to love that. Moscow on the hill is going to be buzzing. Some shots would be great. But I am, if they do this right, and it feels like they have so far, I just want them to accept what's gone wrong, because I don't think that you should fight it, because to what Declan just said, in 18 months, I think you're looking at a product that could be incredibly exciting, incredibly different. And now those pieces are starting to fit, and you have cap space.
Jesse brought up the point of having a little extra money in your pocket, and is that enticing? This is kind of like, okay, so the Wild have been in debt, and they've done a really good job at managing that debt, and they're almost over the hill of managing that debt, but for whatever reason, they're going to go buy a new car. Don't go buy the new car.
Right.
Ride your beater car for another 18 months. Can you get by? We're 18 months, and then you can go back to that car dealership and get yourself a nice car. But for right now, for God's sakes, don't take big trips. Don't be overspending. Be financially responsible for a little bit more longer. I know it's tough, and then you'll be debt-free.
Don't feel like you're speaking to my soul. Right now.
Yeah, don't finance that APR crap. Pay no attention, because you're about to get a balloon payment, and you can pay that car off. That's exactly right. I cannot tell you, like the Vikings, I'm not sure of yet. Like there's a lot of directions here, and there's a lot of questions and unknowns. I feel like with the Wild, it's more patience of the knowns look pretty damn good. I mean, these kids, some of these players look like they're legit. And if you combine them with Faber and you combine them with Rossi, like I will say this, I do think the Iowa conundrum is partially because of the acceleration of guys to here who you might not have here.
Yeah, probably.
And
true.
they've been good. So, and I mean, I think Marco Rossi has proven that he belongs here now too. Because that was a big question mark of ours. What, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we were all like, should they trade this guy? What's wrong with him? And now he looks good. So I am really, really bullish on the future, but Guerin's immediate impulses do scare me a little bit.
I'd agree.
Last question. Anybody going to watch the All-Star Game stuff, including the redone skills competition, thanks to Connor McDavid?
I might flip it on, but All-Star outside of baseball, that's like the only All-Star game I go out of my way to watch. So if it's on, I might flip it on, but I'm definitely not going to be going out of my way this weekend to watch it.
Do you care, Jesse?
I like the skills competition, and I love the fact that they're bringing back the draft. I love that. There's no better way to chirp your fellow hockey players than to be like, you're going to go dead last in this draft. The concerning part is I think Kirill's going to be pretty low down on that list because you look at the names that are heading into this. It's a lot of really, really good ones. And, Kirill's just kind of there in the middle. But I enjoy the skills competition. I like that they're trying new things. Hate the jerseys. Hate the jerseys.
I don't like them either, but I'm old.
But I don't even think Declan as the youngest on this podcast. They're not cool, right? They're ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those Biebs?
They're Biebs. Biebs made them.
Yeah, see, Biebs shouldn't be allowed to do a lot of things.
Biebs is weird now, too.
Really?
He's a weird duck. He's kind of like hammered all the time now too, which, hey, don't get me wrong, I'm hammered a lot too. But it's just in general, he's just had a weird child actors or child prodigies. They get somewhere and then they get to adulthood and things start to unravel.
Yeah.
I would have honestly preferred if Kaprizov called in sick and just went to Cabo or something just for some rest, but
He never seems to enjoy himself at these. Like the past 2 years that he's gone, I'm like, he doesn't want to be there. And now it's in Toronto. I really wouldn't want to be there either, I suppose.
If I'm a player, this is the worst.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to get away from anybody. And you could be the scrubbiest of scrub all-star, and they're going to know you on the street. Like Florida, they wouldn't know who the hell Kaprizov is. So, all right, you guys, great stuff. We'll talk to you next Wednesday. She is Jessie Pierce. You can find her work, Bar Down Beauties, and NHL.com, The Wild Writer. We'll see you later.